Dan Kotowski. Dan, it's what did we have? October 25th?
It's October 24th.
October 24th, so I didn't even get that right. Dan, of course, is the state senator, Democrat?
State senator, 33rd District,
Okay.
Democrat. I'm seeking to represent the 28th District.
And we've just finished, it's the Journal Topics debate here.
Yes, sir.
And here being the Des Plaines City Hall, right?
Yes, sir.
You're there with your opponent, Jim O'Donnell, the Republican, as well as a portion of your district on the State House side, Susan Sweeney, that's the 55th,
right,
running as a Republican against the Democrat.
Yes, Marty Moylan.
Marty Moylan,
yeah.
Who's the mayor of Des Plaines.
Yes,
right?
he is, yeah.
All right, so an hour and a half. What came out to you as the most important substantive difference between you and your opponent, Jim O'Donnell?
Well, I have a proven record.
6 years in the state senate, right?
No, I have a proven record of standing up to business as usual, fighting political corruption, and stopping reckless spending. And that's the clear difference. I have a reputation, and a proven one, of working with people from both sides of the aisle to get things done in our state.
Would you, in terms of substantive issues, you heard O'Donnell speak, you spoke?
Sure.
What does it strike you as the most important substantive issue?
Well, the most important substantive issue is what is the person who's in the position, me, doing to stand up to business as usual,
I understand
to make
that,
sure we end reckless spending.
Abortion, pension reform, that type of thing. Are any of those issues stark contrast between you and your opponent?
Well, sure, there's fundamental contrast. I think, look, I'm someone who's pro-choice,
okay.
you know, and
that means you would not restrict in any way a woman's right to choose
on
abortion, right?
No, I would not. And
partial birth abortion,
right,
that's okay. Parental notice,
well,
you're not going to do that.
The issue is clear. I'm a pro-choice.
Okay.
Elected official.
And your opponent, Jim O'Donnell, you heard his position?
Yeah, he's funded by groups that are opposed to women's rights to choose.
And he says he's pro-life, but with exceptions for rape and incest and the life of the mother.
Well, that's,
do you disagree with that characterization?
I think he's endorsed by a group that's an extremist group that thinks otherwise.
What's the group? Do you know the name?
Yeah, I think it's called Family PAC. So,
Family PAC? But
yeah.
when they would not favor any exceptions for rape or incest?
No, they would not.
But they would have favored an exception for the life of the mother. You'd give them that, right?
No, they would not.
Really? Family PAC? Paul Caprio?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
they're very clear on that.
I thought they would. Okay, so that's the abortion issue, pension reform.
I think we both agree we need to do something on pension reform. But look, I get the fundamental issue, Jeff. The fundamental difference between the two of us is that, and I'll state what the Tribune has stated. The Tribune has stated, you know, Dan Kotowski, we have to give him credit for standing up to business as usual, reducing government spending to make sure that we increase transparency and accountability, like I have. And the Daily Herald said the same thing.
What about on pension reform? It's said to be an $83 to $200 billion unfunded
Sure. And
liability.
I have a proven record of voting for fundamental pension reform.
Did you vote for the Senate bill that passed the Senate
I did.
at the end of the session?
I did.
But not the
and
House?
It reduces the pension benefits of politicians, the very generous pension benefits. It makes sure you protects the retirement of people who've worked hard and played by the rules,
okay.
And it goes after double dipping.
But it didn't raise the retirement age, didn't increase the employee contribution, only applied to two of the 5 funds. Would you extend that to the other 2 funds? And would you increase the retirement age?
The projected savings, Jeff, for that piece of legislation is $31 billion to taxpayers. $31 billion. What I have voted for.
Okay, but just to answer the question, would you extend it from 2 to 4
What
funds?
I have voted for, let me be clear on something. I have voted for a 2-tier pension system for all new hires. I did that 2 years ago.
And that passed the legislature.
It passed the legislature. It was signed into law.
But it's only for new hires.
It's all for new hires. They work to 67. They pay more into the system, and they get less benefits. It's an important issue. And the framework that was voted on in the Senate, again, it reduces pension benefits for politicians. It protects those investments for people living on fixed incomes, and it goes after those abuses in the pension system. And it saves, the projected savings is $31 billion.
For current employees, would you increase their retirement age?
I said the bill that I voted.
No, that's for future employees.
No.
But that's only for 2 funds.
No, that's for current.
The bill that passed the Senate. But
the bill that's passed the Senate provides the framework for addressing it.
For addressing retirement age?
Framework for addressing fundamental pension reform.
But it doesn't increase the retirement age. Would you, if given the opportunity, vote for a bill to increase the retirement age for current employees?
Jeff, I just want to be clear on something. And the bill that I voted on provides a framework for fundamental pension reforms, and the savings is close to $31 billion because it reduces the pension benefits of politicians.
Mostly through the COLA, the cost of living adjustment. Is that right?
Right. It reduces the compounded
maybe
COLA.
Exclusively.
Yeah, and it also says this: no longer do you get free health care. You have to pay for it. And that's one of the things that I helped pass.
But it doesn't apply. It didn't apply to state employees. It didn't apply to university employees, did it?
No, and that's why I said
two other big funds. Would you vote if those two
what
funds?
I said was,
would you vote to apply that same wording, that same legislation to those other two?
Well, here's
funds,
the challenge that we face. Here's the challenge.
State university.
No, not just state employees. Let's be clear. The bill that I voted on was for state employees and for politicians, for the General Assembly. Now,
but not for the university.
Here's
system.
the biggest concern there.
And other.
Here's the big concern for educators is they actually pay for their health care. Okay. Unlike state employees and politicians, they actually have put money into health care, right? They put money into health care. So any kind of resolution, we have to figure out, it has to honor that, and we have to also look at it.
Because, as you said, even if you're right and it saves $31 billion, according to Governor Quinn, you're talking $70, $80 billion unfunded debt. So you got that much more, $50 billion or so, to deal with. How do you do it?
Well, it addresses, like I said, it provides a framework. I look forward to working with those folks who worked hard and play by the rules, the educators, to come up with a resolution to this. I think they're willing to sit at the table to make sure. A lot of them have talked about increasing their contributions. You know, some of them have talked about retirement age. I think everything's on the table. We just need to make sure that we provide any kind of framework is fair and it's meaningful.
You supported that $5 billion tax increase, individual income tax increase, corporate income tax increase of 2011. I think you're asked this evening. That bill is set to sunset. By 2015.
And I support the sunset.
And if you support it, I think you folks all were asked, not just you. How would you deal with? That would result in a decrease of $4 to $5 billion.
Let me address the fundamentals.
How would you make that up?
The fundamental issues, like we've had decades of waste and mismanagement, corruption, which brought the state to its knees financially. And both political parties are blamed, and that forced that action. The critical issue is what's being done to fix it. Now, here's what we're going to be able to roll it back, because I've identified close to $1 billion in the state budget of legislator-sponsored programs, $1 billion that don't need to be in there, that are automatically funded, that we can remove and we can fund these necessary programs.
That's $1 billion.
Yeah.
You got $4 billion left to go.
Well, I think I've also talked to you about.
And we're going to make you governor. If you're governor, how would you lead the state?
Well, I've also talked about the
$4
meaningful pension reform, and I've talked to you about this critical issue that I put in place that requires the state to live within its means. The state can't spend more than it takes in for the first time ever because of my spending reform.
Is that a statutory cap?
It's a statutory.
So,
it's a statutory law.
It can be changed. Would you support a constitutional cap on spending?
It's specific. First of all, there is a cap on spending, but my law says,
it's not constitutional. That's the point.
Well, my law is one of the toughest spending reform laws in the country, because it says, unlike other legislators which start out with how much they have to spend, it says this is how much money we have available, which is different from different years, different from what we've done in the past. And the facts are, like I said tonight, I said there's been a problem where people have been digging ourselves further in a financial hole. My spending reform law takes away the shovel.
Do you support education reform?
I have supported education reform.
Would you support lifting the cap on charter schools?
Well, I think what we need to do is looking at education right now. Education is woefully underfunded because of our limitations and our challenges. What I have supported is race to the top.
If it's underfunded, where would you find more funding?
Well, I think that's again, I looked at these issues there. I think when you get meaningful and fair pension reform, you'll have some funds there, but also getting rid of that $1 billion of legislative-sponsored programs.
What about charter schools? Do you support charter schools?
He's got to go.
Well, he can go. Don't touch the camera, please.
I haven't touched.
Okay.
Saying.
Okay, just finish education.
Finish education. Jeff, I've voted for charter schools in the past.
You support them?
Oh, sure, I support them. Yeah, I have voted for them in the past.
Are they a means to more efficient provision of education?
Well, here's the critical issue that we face in our state. We have inequities in funding education. We need to address that. We need to make sure that the challenges we faced, that we're able to pay the school districts out there that need the funds in order to make sure that we have the best performing students.
All right. Thank you so much, Dan Kotowski.
Good to see you, Jeff.
All right, good to see you. Come on the show if you get elected or re-elected. We expect to see you. Thanks so much, Dan. Well, that's Dan Kotowski. You've just heard him speaking here at the Town Hall, the City Hall here in Des Plaines. We're taping this interview on Wednesday, October 24th. We're trying to gather the other candidates. Susan Sweeney, who's running for rep in the 55th District. She had to cancel our show right before she was scheduled to appear, 22 hours before. Trying to get Mayor Moylan to appear. We invited him today. He said he didn't have time. Wonder if he has a few minutes to talk to you right now. Trying to get Jim O'Donnell, who's the state Senate Republican opponent for Dan Kotowski. So those three folks were here. That we were all told that they'd be available to speak with the media. We haven't quite seen them yet. Doesn't mean that they're not going to talk with you. We're going to go out looking for them because we're here to represent you. If they don't appear with us on public affairs, it's no disrespect to me, but it's dissing you, the viewer. So let me go find them. If they're here, we'll bring them, and we'll bring them to you on public affairs as we do every week. You can always find us if you can't find the channel, if you don't know where we are, in the city of Chicago, in Rockford, in Aurora, in 34 Chicago metro areas. Always find us on youtube.com/publicaffairs.tv. Jeff Berkowitz, host and producer of Public Affairs, coming to you live this evening from the City Hall in Des Plaines, Illinois. Wednesday, October 24th. And you come back and see us on Public Affairs every week. Find us, go to chicagonow.com/public affairs. You'll find the promo for our show. Go to youtube.com/public affairs TV. Thank you so much for watching Public Affairs.